Okay, well, my name's Jeremy Friedbaum. I'm on the ballot as JL Friedbaum, and I'm running for the citywide council. I am running because I want Provo citizens to be better representative. I'm the only candidate that's really interested in some institutional changes in Provo. I'd like to see the neighborhood organizations have more authority and more autonomy. I'd like to see BYU have a seat on the city council, even if it's just an advisory seat, so we can work on our common goals and use common resources. I'd like to see business license owners have at least an advisory seat on the council. I think they could actually do better at increasing Provo business than just 7 people with ideas. And then I have a goal to establish a feedback system. So anybody that comes into any contact with any Provo City employee would be able to leave immediate feedback. So it'd be quantifiable and we could improve the service. I happen to be wearing a campaign t-shirt here. I've tried hard to make it a fun shirt. I'm running basically a paperless campaign. Those posters with just their name and what office they want you to vote for, to me that's always seemed like vain and repetitious political litter. So I'm going to try and campaign the way I would govern, with more creativity and genuineness. So I spent a lot of time making a very pretty, desirable t-shirt that people might want to wear on the front, and it doesn't say that much about me except down here to vote for me and my website, jlfforprovo.org. You can look to it for details. And then on the back of it is a bunch of national records. How Provo has the highest legitimate birth rate in the country, how we're speak more languages per capita than anyone else, how we've been voted best place to live over and over again, how we're voted the nicest and most thoughtful city, isn't that nice? Lowest crime rate, lowest bars per capita, all sorts of interesting Provo facts. And so you can get this t-shirt by contacting me through my website, jlf number 4 provo.org or .com. They'll go to the same place. Thank you. Okay, well, Vision 2030 is sort of it's put together by a committee of 20 people, idealizing where they want the city to be in 15 years. And they've got 14 core goals, they've got sub goals under those core goals, and then they have dozens of objectives for each of the goals and sub goals. And so there's a small book worth of idealized vision. And most of it is fine. I think the second largest category would be politically correct statements, which don't really get you anywhere. And there are a few things that deal with things that we have no jurisdiction over, such as rentals countywide. But in general, it's a nice listing of ideals. There's no road path on how to get there. Let me give you a different vision of 2030. I believe America is a promised land, which means God has promised to help us flourish and protect us as long as we obey Him and respect Him and keep His commandments. But He's also promised that to the inhabitants of this land, that if we turn away from Him, He's promised we'll regret it. And I think a lot of people in Provo would share with me the idea that the time is coming that so many in this country are turning away from basic commandments, that we may be in big trouble, and that there's been a lot happening in the last 6 years leading up to that. So in 2030, anything could happen. This country has, I think it's, $18 trillion in debt right now, that we actually owe to other people, and about 60, 70 can't keep up with it. Trillion in money we promised to spend that we don't see anything coming in to take over. So we could have a financial collapse in 15 years easily. Iran now has, as part of the treaty that was just proposed, will have the ability to buy intercontinental ballistic missiles. technology from Russia, and we've made it easier for them to get the nuclear bomb. We could be in a physical war. China could go to overtake Taiwan, and we could threaten to protect Taiwan, and we could get an electromagnetic pulse attack that would wipe out the electric grid in the U.S. We're not prepared for that. So there's a lot of ways that in 15 years we could be, as a country, in a deep calamity. And so what I want to do is I want to better prepare Provo to be united to face potential calamities. That's why I want to increase the authority and autonomy of the neighborhoods and have the individuals be better connected to government through the neighborhoods. That's why I want to invite BYU to sit as an advisor on the city council so we can start working together with the other most powerful organization in the city. That's why I want to invite the business license owners to elect a representative to be part of the city council so we can make sure we economically thrive in the worst of times because we have direct input from the businesses that are represented by the business owners. So I have a different way of preparing for 2030 than that document. Unified. Unified. As I said, I've lived in Provo for nearly 40 years now, and I was very disappointed with municipal government, which is why I worked hard to get Mayor Curtis elected when he first ran, and which is why I'm running now, because I foresee that really falling apart. Having there are candidates that would be very divisive and fractionalizing, and I don't want to see that. I think a lot of us, well, we should have the same goals, and so I'm known. Salt Lake Tribune called me an ultra conservative upstart, actually, when I surprised everybody by getting into a primary once. And in the national politics, I'm focused on limiting the involvement of the federal government with what people should be doing as states, communities, and individuals. But here, at the community level, this is where you get things done. This is where you try things. For instance, I spoke to Mayor Curtis. I'm frustrated with the access to water. Utah's a dry place, and we should have lots of access to our water. One of those is I don't like having to pay to use Utah State Lake Park. Utah Lake State Park, excuse me. And so I suggested, why don't we take the levee that goes around the airport, bring in some sand, and make it into a Provo beach. Dredge it out a little bit, make it someplace fun to swim. And as soon as I mentioned that to Mayor Curtis, I get a email next week says we've hired a consultant to look into it. So yeah, let's work together to make Provo a better place. Yes, well, there's four basic things that I've outlined on my website. One would be increasing the authority and autonomy of the neighborhood organizations. Provo was divided into 34 neighborhoods, and I would like to see them. I go to these neighborhood meetings. They're always concerned about things that are getting built that they don't really want, and variances and apartments, and they want Provo City to do that, and then people on the other side want Provo City to do just the opposite. Let's allow apartments, let's not. Well, I think it would be better served to let the neighborhoods decide. So if you've got somebody that wants to rent to somebody and they're in a zone that says no, but all the neighbors say yes, the neighborhoods would have the power to overrule the city ordinances. Also, I'd like to see Provo move towards almost a bicameral system. In other words, two houses. So the laws that the council passes with just 7 people represented the city, that's not very good representation, would actually have to be approved by the 34 neighborhood organizations. And I would try and do everything I could to increase individual participation in the neighborhood organizations. Maybe if they go to 3 meetings in a row, they get a punch pass for the Orem Rec Center. do some things to advertise it. And by the way, the rec center doesn't have a punch pass right now. That's one of the things I'd like to bring back. I'd like to have BYU invite them to have somebody sit on the Orem City Council. I don't know if it could be voting. We'd have to ask the city attorney because they do have this religious ownership. But I'd like them to be part of the city council. They're an undeniable and vibrant part of Provo City culture. And if they were part of Provo City government, I think we could work together with our common goals and resources. Likewise, Provo is getting its clock cleaned in terms of business development by other cities around us. And I speak to people who tried to start businesses in Provo and ran into a great deal of friction and frustration. And everybody on the Provo running says, oh, we could do this, that would be better for businesses or that. But if we actually had the business license owners get together and elect one person to represent them and divide into subgroups like realtors, hotellerie, food service, and they get together in groups and then they hire one person to represent all their interests and be heard at the city council level. Representation is much better than just seven guys in an ivory tower thinking, oh, what can we do to increase business? So I'm more for more representation by individuals, by neighborhoods, by BYU, and by businesses in Provo. Well, I will vote for it personally, and I'd encourage other Provo residents. I think it will pass overwhelmingly. I do serve in Provo as a part of the bicycle committee. Um, and one of the reasons I'm running is to see it applied both fairly and creatively. I know one disparity I have is at a community meeting. George Stewart said he'd like to use that to pay off some of the debt of the Provo City Golf Course. I don't think Provo residents are voting for a new tax to pay off debt on something that already exists. So I would not be in favor of that. They would be all new options. One of the things that I want to do with that probably none of the other candidates running, is something that Mayor Curtis and I have discussed, which is rerouting the Provo River Parkway up the Provo River. Right now, it goes just up to the BYU Motion Picture Studios, and then it gets diverted, and you've got to run up traffic on University Avenue. You've got these big trucks going 50, 60 miles an hour opposing you as you go up. It's sort of intimidating. It's uphill. Coming downhill, when you got a hill behind you, it's not that bad. But so we want to reroute the Provo River so it follows the Provo River. That would mean going through the country club and the river bottoms. And so you're dealing with probably the wealthiest sections and political concerns of Provo. That's going to be hard to do, but that's one of the things I'd want to do with it. And that would make going up the canyon so much nicer. I can't really be expected to talk about the budget without being on the council. It would be disingenuous for me to say that I know the budget well enough. All I can say is that thriftiness is in my nature. I started a business in Provo about 25 years ago, Best Buy and Buy Back Computers. It was just when computers were being called clones, and they were being sold through stores that were used to the 300% markup that IBM had set. And I did this out of my home. I got rid of all the overhead, and I had classes where people and families would come together, teach them about the different components, help them choose them, and put them together. It was tremendously successful. Within a year, I was selling to, let's see, I think it was 8 different countries and 26 different states. And I had never advertised outside of Utah County, just sort of spread through the Mormon grapevine, just keeping my costs low and transmitting that into into savings. I mean, I had JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories, buying computers from me. It was so crazy because everything I got came from California, and it came from me to California, and then they'd buy it in California just because I was able to keep costs so low. So it's it's actually a compulsion of mine to save money. So better or worse, that's what you'll get is somebody who can really look at the budget in a creative manner and try and save for the people of Provo. This is an interesting election. I'll give you an insider viewpoint. There were two people that filed early, and when those two people that filed early became aware, three others, including myself, said, "We don't want Jason Christensen. He's highly disruptive." And George Stewart, although he's a sweetie pie on the campaign trail, it's hard not to like him. But I can't forget how fractionalized Provo City government was under his reign, how we were a national embarrassment because we closed the Provo pool on Sunday, but kept the Provo golf course open, and so national TV came in on that hypocrisy. How there was someone on the council who had their private tapes stolen, and Mayor Stewart had them given to other members of the councils to hear what other people had said to her on the tape when she had just done those as personal notes, and her husband, her brother, I'm sorry, had apparently stolen them from them, and he was actually involved in distributing stolen information. So the other three people have joined because we don't want to see either of those two in. And I think if you ask them, they'd probably honestly say yes. If those two people weren't the two ones running, we never would have gotten into the race. But I hope I'm the one that would help Provo grow the most and become more unified through individuals being in the government, and I'd probably work best with Mayor Curtis. If you like what he's doing, I worked hard to get him elected. I'd like to continue that unity of spirit in the city government.